Our sweet prince, Anthony Totri, is gone, but don't worry, we're going to have a great time without him. And welcome into PHNX Sun Devils, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Download the Circle K app today and join the Inner Circle for free at participating locations. Terms and conditions apply. We are back to ats in the chat. Can we just pick one? Can we just
I know, it's
settle?
Really...
This is annoying.
But we should change this to our name forever. Time for the PHNX Still Devil Show.
Still Devil Show, that's right. Don't worry, we will be talking about Phil Steele at some point today. We cannot go a show without it. I'm Erik Ruby without my partner in crime, Anthony Totri. But of course, we got the Deli Man behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. It's Shane Dieffenbach. And don't worry, I'm not alone, even with Phil Steele over my shoulder. Let's bring on our amazing Phil and co-host, rocking some amazing merch as well. It's Ralph Amsden. Hi, Ralph.
What's up, buddy? How you been?
Dude, I'm doing good. I have a very important question for you, Ralph. Have you heard of Phil Steele?
Yeah. I saw him use a racial epithet on accident earlier this week. Did you not see that?
No.
He misspelled that guy's name.
That guy.
Noah.
Guy.
That guy.
The one name.
Oh, I didn't know that. So that adds to the lore. So I'm assuming you are not subscribed to Phil Steele Plus?
I'm not subscribed to Phil Steele Plus. But who knows what you can get over there?
Yeah, it's like $270 if you get the college football and NFL edition of Phil Steele Plus. So just so you know.
That's like a whole new wardrobe from the PHNX locker.
There you go. But it's definitely more expensive than what we're charging to be a diehard right now, because we are having a sale. It's a free agency frenzy over in the NBA. And for that, we are doing a $36 intro offer for diehards only. Ralph, of course, is a diehard. He's rocking the merch as well. You get a free t-shirt or a free hat. You also get 20% discount to all of our live events, access to our diehard Discord, written content, and ad-free experience on our website. So much more. We just welcomed in a new diehard, Tanner, so I want to say thank you to him for jumping in the Discord. And we did tell him the crazy story that we had not told anybody else in the public, but that is for another day. Ralph, I'll tell you behind the scenes here, because man, it was nuts. But Ralph, we are getting closer. It's July. It's almost football season, man.
It is. Isn't there like NFL this month or something like that?
Is it the Hall of Fame game?
Yeah, I think so. I think July 31st. So we're officially in it.
We are officially in it. I'm excited. We're getting closer to ASU football season. It's been a long layoff now, and this team is poised to hopefully do some really big things. And obviously, the conversation is usually ruled by the likes of a Sam Leavitt or a Jordyn Tyson or an Xavion Alford, and rightfully so, of course. But there's no great team that doesn't have a couple wild cards that step up in the mix. Ralph, just overall on this roster, do you feel like this is a deeper roster than last year?
Yeah, I think kind of through backfilling, because they didn't really lose very many players. Obviously, you know, the ones they did lose are very, very big names, but it takes 22 plus special teams to fill out a football team. And Arizona State didn't even have to really rely heavily on the portal as far as what they're doing on the defensive side of the football. They bring back a ton of experience on the offensive line. And then, of course, you are bringing players in through high school and select players that you think can help you through the portal. So I think just by default, they are a much deeper team than they were last year. And comparatively to the Big 12, I'd put them in the top 2 or 3 just as far as depth and the ability to withstand a full season of football.
Who are the other ones that are up top? Because you were just telling me earlier today before you jumped on that you did an insane Big 12 deep dive. Was it the depth that you were looking at?
Yeah, so I was helping out. I write for Unafraid Show for George Reister. He was doing his Big 12 preseason rankings since the Big 12 is afraid. Since we broke the rankings, they're afraid to.
Dude, so
funny.
funny.
And I feel for the Big 12 because I think 37 first place votes were spread across Utah, Oklahoma State, and Arizona last year, and those teams went a combined 4-23 in conference. And so it's not just that Arizona State won the conference; it's that it was a disaster all around. I love the preseason media polls. It gives us something to talk about all year long. If they want to get away from it, fine. I think it was a temporary embarrassment of a lot of writers not really understanding who was coming in. But in going through to do the Unafraid Show Big 12 rankings, that is a thing I really wanted to look at. I wanted to see which teams could actually withstand a full season, which teams were relying on the portal. I have to tell you, Iowa State, it is very possible we could run it back again. A lot of people talk about the two wide receivers that Iowa State lost, but they bring back their top two rushers. They bring back Rocco Beck. They have 106, I think, games of experience coming back on the offensive line alone. And the defense, last year, their two top linebackers were lost for the season pretty early in the season, and they come back. And so I really, really like Iowa State's roster, and they looked to replace the production that they lost at wide receiver, bringing in a couple of transfers. And if Rocco Becht is good, then I think you're not going to see two 1,100-yard wide receivers again. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. But I think you could see Iowa State be in a position to withstand a full season with their depth. But a lot of the other teams don't really have it. Maybe a Texas Tech.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because they're obviously they threw a lot of money at their team, and I know Shane is not high on them. Is that a team where it's like the money you think maybe just more plays out for top end talent, or do you feel like they got a little bit more flushed out?
Well, their top 5 defensive linemen are all portal additions, including winning a bidding war for the last player to go in the portal, the Stanford defensive end, when Troy Taylor was let go. I believe they paid up to $2 million just to get one defensive lineman when they already had a set 4 that they brought in via the transfer portal. So defensive line was the primary priority for Texas Tech, and they spent a ton of money getting a top 5. And then if you look at what they did on offense, it was replacing their running back production, which is very important. And then they got a right tackle and a left tackle. How this will work out as far as chemistry, no idea. Obviously, their offensive coordinator is someone who scares the bejesus out of me, having had to deal with Texas State last year. So I think that they have all of the pieces to do something special, but whether or not they're deep really depends on how sometimes if you go into a season and you don't know if you're going to play or not because they brought in somebody to replace you, you might not necessarily have the mentality to be able to step in there and contribute right away. Texas Tech could be 2-3 injuries away from playing people that they never thought they would have to play. And that's kind of a scary position to be in. And so Texas Tech, the money is big. It's all really going to come down to their quarterback, who I think averaged less than 7 yards per attempt last year. So it's really going to come down to how they fuse their offensive coordinator with Baron Morton. And I have them as a top 3 team, which is not something that they've really ever been in Big 12 play. This is the first time they won 6 games in conference since 2008 this last year. So I'm more afraid of Iowa State than I am Texas Tech, but a lot of that just has to do with the fact that Texas Tech ain't played defense ever.
Trust me, we're going to get to Arizona State here in a second. We got a bunch of wild card names on offense and on defense that I'm super excited to talk to Ralph about. But because we have a Buffs fan in the chat, where do you stand on them after your Big 12 deep dive?
I think that they will look like a better team than last year, like a more functional football team than last year. And one of the reasons is this is a team that combined for, I think, 1,664 yards rushing in the last 2 years combined. Caden Salter alone at Liberty has 4 more yards than that himself in the last 2 years. So you have a quarterback who has the ability to move the pocket. They went heavy in the portal on their offensive line, but they returned Jordan Seaton, who is a stellar prospect at left tackle, probably an eventual first-round pick. And Caden Salter has played with worse talent. I think this is probably Omarion Miller's time to really shine and step into a role. He was a number one receiver. I mean, they could have had Jordan Tyson too. It's funny to think about, but he's really a number one receiver who was the number 4 option for that team. So I think they'll look like a much more functional offense than they have in years past. I think there's a really good chance they get gashed on defense pretty regularly, and they just become one of those Big 12 teams that if they're going to win a game, they got to win at 45-42. I think they'll have the capability. I think people also forget that last year they were 7-2 in conference. They're pretty good. So I just think that they'll look like there'll be a lot less third and long situations, which they would nail all the time with Shedeur. But I do think that they will look better. Whether or not that'll be better than a 9-4 record, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, especially considering the amount of talent that they lost. I think a lot of people, when you look at Arizona State, they say, how do you replace Cam Scatterbu? Well, how do you replace Shedeur and Travis Hunter? I think all of that's going to be interesting for anybody that's going to contend in the Big 12. You're going to need to have some unseen heroes pop up and produce. So let's just dive into it, Ralph. Let's start with a freshman, somebody who's coming in here who Totri and I are extremely high on. It feels like a lot of people around Arizona State are extremely high on. Let's talk about AJ Ia. Listen, 6'6", 255, a 4-star recruit out of California, tight end to tight end U, what it feels like at Arizona State. How likely is it in your mind that come the actual season, we're seeing this kid not only get on-field reps, but doing something with it?
Normally, I would say absolutely not for a freshman tight end, but he's already 255, and he moves so well that I don't think you need him to be an inline blocker yet. Usually, you need your tight end to be the whole package before they see the field. But we saw Arizona State in past years attempt to use certain players who have physical advantages that are hybrid tight end wide receivers, like a Curtis Hodges, who actually went on to have a decent NFL career, but never really performed the function that Arizona State hoped that he would perform in maroon and gold. I think with AJ Ia, the way he moves is so fluid, and he has such soft hands. And Arizona State was so comfortable sending Shimon Mateer on some deeper in and out routes last year, or when they'd roll Sam Leavitt, you'd see Mateer cutting across the field. I think they'll find a way to use him. I'm thinking, you have to understand that people think use somebody means that they're going to get 30 catches. It might just be a catch a game, but that's an impact. And so my expectation for him is maybe somewhere between 15 and 20 receptions regular season. But that's super rare for a tight end to be able to come in and have that type of impact right away.
Yeah, it does feel like he's kind of in a different category himself. And what worst case scenario for him, it feels like he maybe plays 3 games and he redshirts and he keeps some eligibility, because there are a lot of tight end options, and one that we'll get to here next after our break. But with Ia specifically, man, you're right with the body and the size. From the moment that I watched his tape in high school, I was like, this kid is different, right? And what I think is interesting is he brings a different look than a lot of these other tight ends that are on the roster. And again, like Shimon is an all Big 12 tight end. Kamari Anderson is an experienced college tight end. We'll talk about Jayden Fortier here in a second, who is more of like a hybrid tight end wide receiver type with his frame. With Ia, I could see like red zone packages. I could see like third and short packages. And as long as he builds that chemistry with Sam Leavitt, I think there's a good chance that you're right, that we are going to see a productive season out of him. Now, I don't think that he's going to be your best tight end, but I don't think that you expect him to really be near that as a freshman. So I would say out of all the freshmen, I'm the most excited about him, and I think it's the most likely that he makes an impact on a team that's vying to go back to the college football playoffs, which is certainly a high standard. You are muted, Ralph.
I didn't want you to hear me sipping on my drink.
Okay.
Here's the deal. Jason Mons has done a fantastic job as a recruiter. He's kind of been good at everything that he's put his mind to as a high school coach, college coach, offensive innovator. If AJ pops off as a freshman, it's going to be tough to hang on to Jason Mons. It just is, because Fortier was a highly rated recruit. What they're getting out of Mykeil that Colorado didn't get, the relationship that they had with allowing a tight end to go back to Florida State with no bad blood shows that he's a player's coach, and the way that he's continued to recruit at a high level. It's going to be more and more difficult to hang on to a high level recruiter like that if your prediction comes true and he comes in and handles business as a freshman. And he'll have an opportunity really early in the season. You get the NAU game right away, then you get to throw him into some real situations. Yeah, it's an FCS opponent, but you're still lining up against 22-year-olds that he might have played against in Southern California. You still have to go in and make a play. And if he shows that he can do it, then he's going to get another opportunity after that.
Yeah, I'm super excited about him. You said Fortier. Is it Fortier, not Fortier?
Well, my wife drinks Perrier, so I'm just guessing.
You know what? I'll say this. Fortier kind of goes hard, so I kind of want it to be Fortier, also known as the Golden Goose around these parts. We're going to get to him, plus all of the other wild cards. We have offense and defense, a ton of names to go through, and we're going to get through them with Ralph Amsden and Shane Behind the Mac right after our first break. Once again, I'm here to tell you about how amazing Branded Bills is. Not just because they partner with Arizona State University. I know AJE is definitely wearing Branded Bills hats. And we had QB1 in here. He's wearing Branded Bills hats. Cam Scadaboo's wearing Branded Bills hats. Everybody's wearing Branded Bills hats. And you should too. Whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitted beanies, or tees, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. And if you're looking for some gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd like we have here at PHNX with our custom gear, well, Branded Bills has you covered with the best custom headwear. I'm talking snapbacks, truckers, fitted, beanies, or tees. They have you covered with performance and style. And for me, the style is great. I always want to throw on a fit, like my man Deli Man behind the Mac here with the Phoenix hat. But it's also the performance for me. It's so hot in Arizona. There's so much going on outdoors, even during the summer. You're going to want to cover up, but you're also going to want to have a breathable hat. And you can get one from brandedbills.com. Just make sure you use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order at brandedbills.com. And if you're buying hats, diapers, groceries, gas, home improvement, whatever it is, make your money work for you. And you can do that with Mountain America Credit Union, who's committed to helping their more than 1 million members through their 100 branches throughout the West. But how can they do that? Well, that's a good question. You can get 2 times the points on rewards credit card purchases from now until July 31st. This promotion's been going on for a couple of weeks. Now we're in the final month of it. Until July 31st, watch the points pile up. Like I said, perfect for gas, which you burn through faster in the summer. Perfect for groceries, which you burn through super quickly. And yes, they are extremely expensive nowadays. And you can reward your double points for rewards like travel rebates, gift cards, event tickets, and so much more. It's a limited time only, so take advantage while you can until July 31st. Get details at macu.com/double. Loans are on approved credit. Offers can be changed or withdrawn at any time. It's a limited time offer. Terms and conditions do apply. Also, a limited time offer to become a diehard today for just $36 intro offer. You get all the regular perks from the full diehard price, but for just $36 for your first year. Go phnx.com/intro and be like some of the new diehards we've added recently. Ralph, I could talk about AJE for the whole show, but let's keep on ripping through some tight ends. Let's talk about Mr. Fortier, Mr. Fortier, also known as the Golden Goose. 6'3", 220, 4-star out of Oregon. Obviously did not play last year due to a pretty significant knee injury, but by all means is good to go for this season. What do you see out of him? Because for me, out of everybody in the tight end room, he has maybe the least tight end build.
Yeah, you're right about his build, and I brought up George Reister earlier, and that was somebody who went into the NFL, shade under 6'3", about 245, playing much more of a receiver role. If you've watched his high school highlights, you realize he doesn't necessarily move like a tight end. He is really more of an all-purpose, all-encompassing athlete, and Arizona State has made room for guys like that before who have that type of ability, whether it's a Jalen Conyers or a Cam Scadaboo. I think going into this year, coming off a knee injury, what you want to make sure is that he's spending a lot of time with Coach Joe, making sure that he feels secure in being able to use his full arsenal, because I don't really see a point to him being on the field unless he is 100% comfortable. And if he is 100% comfortable, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're putting him in position to win matchups. So, you run a play where you have Jalen Moss outmatched up against a nickel, and then you run a substitution and you can run Jayden out there, and all of a sudden you have somebody who's 6'3", 220, you hit him on a bubble. Maybe they make one guy miss. They make a 5-yard, what would have been a 5-yard gain turn into 11 or 12 yards. And in that, you make sure that he really feels like he's part of this offense as he more comes into his own and figures out what his role is going to be. But to me, he is somebody whose ability lends itself to really being a specialist. And the thing I like about Marcus Arroyo, the thing I like about this entire offensive staff, is they really think through their game plans week to week. And if they see an opportunity to use Jayden, they're going to use him.
Do you think they're going to use him? Like, do you feel like he'll get some playing time this year?
I think as long as he feels good, you have to. You really have to see what he can do because he is so unique. And there's goal line situations in which you'll line up sort of a third tight end as an H-back, motion him, do some special things with him. I do think you have to throw him out there to see what you have, especially in having a non-traditional body. Maybe over time you're going to be able to put 25 more pounds on him. And in college football, you don't have a lot of players really lasting into years 4 and 5 on any specific team. And so the best thing, if you want him to be part of this roster, is to have a long-term plan and to start out to see if he can hang. And that's not a skill. We know skill-wise, we know he's special. But with people who have sort of tweener bodies, you have to put them in situations to succeed. Or else you see a lot of situations where a player just ends up on a shelf somewhere while you try to figure out what to do with them, and then they're in the portal the next year. So whatever they can do to put him in a situation to gain confidence and have a little bit of success is going to be really important, so long as he is healthy and good to go. You never know. You have your Adrian Petersons, who 7 months after an ACL look exactly like they did before. And then you have people going on month 18, month 19, and a lot of it's mental.
Yeah, and I mean, even putting on the weight and going up against, this is not small stakes for Arizona State this year, right? Like, every game matters. We saw how close the margins were for the Big 12 championship, right? So every single snap, every single game, even against NAU, even against Texas State, like, it's going to matter a lot. So I'm interested to see what they do with him. I think a lot of people are also interested to see how Jaren Hamilton fits into this roster. Obviously, transferring in from a blue blood, if you talk about speed, well, there's speed with this guy. 4-star, 6 foot, 200-pound wide receiver out of Florida, transferring in from Alabama. We've had some people in the chat go as high as saying he could get 1,000-yard season. I think worst case scenario, he's a specialist that you put your burner on. Where do you see Jaren Hamilton falling into what feels like an extremely stacked wide receiver room for Sam Leavitt?
Well, he's not, or he hasn't been thus far like an every down guy. Even in high school, he was a specialist. I think maybe his strongest year was even his junior year of high school. You're talking about somebody who's 22, 23 yards per catch. This is a home run ball guy. And so if Jaren Hamilton is getting 1,000 yards receiving, it's going to be on something crazy like 42 catches, and and eventually people are going to learn that that's what he's on the field to do. I would love to see him come in and prove people wrong. I think that's kind of how Alabama maybe saw him too, which is surprising. It was surprising to me that you have Kalen DeBoer at Alabama and you saw the way that they ran that Washington offense with Ben Grubb, Jalen Polk, Rome Odunze. So many of those routes were so far deep down the field that I'm really interested to see if Jaren Hamilton is here, with a chip on his shoulder, ready to prove that he can do something that maybe they didn't think he was going to be able to do out there, because I thought that would have been the perfect offense for his skill set. he's somebody at this point. If I'm him, I'm probably frustrated. I missed a bunch of my senior year of high school. I haven't had the opportunity to play just yet. Alabama fans all describe me as a burner, and they've seen burner after burner after burner. So his speed is legit. Sam Leavitt has that big arm, and again, it's just all about situational football, putting people in positions to succeed. I would love to see him come out, make a big play, and get his confidence back. It's the same feeling I had last year about Jake Smith, and it never really ended up happening. I think a big part of that, though, is I'm not sure Sam Leavitt really had a grasp on what was going on until week 8 or 9, right? I think Sam Leavitt's coming in with a pretty firm grasp on exactly what he wants to do, exactly who he wants to go to. And so if Jaren Hamilton's going to be a part of this offense, we're going to know pretty early on.
Yeah, I want to compare him to our next wild card, another wide receiver here, another transfer from another blue blood. It's Malik McClain out of Penn State. Obviously, redshirted last year, but still stepped up in big moments in the postseason. 6'5", 210, 4-star. Obviously, some of the biggest plays at the end of the season, whether it was in the Big 12 championship or in the college football playoffs. I'll be honest, I think I'm a little higher on Malik McClain than most. Where do you see him slotting in this wide receiver room? Is it under Jaren Hamilton?
No. I think familiarity and size is going to probably provide more opportunity for Malik McClain, even though some of the plays that he made last year, they felt like backyard football. It wasn't that he was out there running the cleanest route and he got open. His biggest play of the season in the Peach Bowl was, I don't think it was meant for him. So, it's a situation where he has the physical tools. He seems to have the right mental makeup to be able to take the time to readjust, to get where he wants to be as a player and stick it out. There's not a lot of players who would have tried to possibly take a volunteer red shirt and then turn around and come back to the team that they were on, which makes me feel like he has been told in that building. I think it's a pretty honest coaching staff that he's been told in that building that there's a place and a plan for him. And what the one thing that my biggest hope for him this year is to look 6'5", right? That to win some individual matchups. Obviously, we're not going to go back to the days of Taylor Kelly hitting Jalen Strong on the cheat code back shoulder throw, but we do have some people who are physically capable of going up and getting a ball where no defender is going to have the ability to do it. And if Sam Leavitt can throw that 14, 15-yard comeback to the sideline, then I think you have Malik McClain as one of your more dependable possession wide receivers. I think he's probably the receiver outside of, the one who had a Megatron workload last year in Jordan Tyson, who should expect to be maybe the third most productive pass catcher on the field. I think every receiver wants to go in and prepare like they're going to be the number one guy, but he is somebody that I feel like Arizona State should really be relying on in possession situations the way they used to with a Gary Chambers, somebody who's very dependable on third down, who can use their body to make a play. And it's not like he's slow, and it's not like he can't create separation. He has all the tools to be a very, very big part of this offense, and I would love to see that happen.
I'm imagining like a 3rd and 3 in a set out there that has Shaman, AJ, Jordan Tyson, and Malik McClain. It feels like the most safest of safety blankets that you could ever imagine with different targets for Sam Leavitt. It's enticing. And like I mentioned, this wide receiver room, it's deep. Let's get to 2 more wide receiver names before we hit a break here. I want to lump them together because I think they're both the biggest wild cards out of all of this. Let's start with Derek Eusebio. Obviously, he's a fan favorite for that big play against U of A. 5'9", 195. He was no stars out of college, but out of Texas. And then also Zechariah Sample, or some people just call him Samp, on the team, 5'10", 175, 3-star, also out of Texas. Do you see a spot for either of these wide receivers to get on the field with all the offensive firepower this team has this season?
Yeah, I mean, I put Derek Eusebio in the same vein as a Coben Bourget. Like, I know they can play. I've seen them do it. You watch them in practice. Their routes are good. They're vocal. They're leaders. They understand the game. They're competitive. When the game starts, coaches are thinking about winning the game and long-term security and, not wanting to have to move to Gary, Indiana next year or whatever. And they're going to always go with the highest possible upside. And there's reputational upside and there's physical upside, and physical upside always wins out, right? Anytime Derek Eusebio goes out and he makes a play, it's not something that you are expecting to happen, even though he does it in practice every day. And so I think his opportunities will be few and far between. The thing about him is he always makes the most of them. And eventually, on some teams, in some situations, that ends up winning out. And we saw Miami last year have a guy who ran a 4.8 40 in the combine lead pretty much the whole ACC in receiving, because when he was out there, you couldn't stop him. And so, it's really going to come down to how and when the opportunities come. But I have no doubt in my mind he'll make the absolute most of them. Zach Sample, I think he's interesting because if the ball's in the air, he's going to go get it. How many opportunities is he going to have? Is he somebody to throw in when time's running out in the half and you just got to let it go? Because in that situation, I'm looking at, I want Jordyn Tyson. I want Malik McClain because of his size. And I want a ball hawk like Sample. He's also interesting to me because he reminds me a little bit of Jalen Harvey in that, eventually Arizona State just needed a way to find Jalen Harvey playing time. And he would have been a great possession receiver, but at the end of the day, he made his impact as a safety. He started in multiple positions for Arizona State. And so I think it's going to be important to have Sample out on the field. I think that maybe some of the avenues for doing that could be special teams, but he is a playmaker, and there's just if this is the Arizona State of last year, I would love to see an increase in production and an increase in multiple reads from Sam Leavitt. But the truth of the matter is 2/3 of pass attempts were going to one guy last year. And so, we're talking about wild cards, and it's like, could a receiver do something at some time? Yes, but it depends on maybe something unfortunate happening, which nobody wants, or really, really unique situations. I love Sample. I think he's going to be very, very good eventually. I just want to see him on the field regardless of the situation. And I think that keep Derek Eusebio off the field at your own peril, because when he's there, we've seen what he can do with the ball in his hands. We've seen what he can do on routes. But is he a better option than the people who are more physically gifted than him? 99.9% of college football coaches are going to say no.
Yeah, I do like the problems we have, which are how can we get playing time for all of these guys? And I think that also fits into the running back room. We'll go through a couple wild cards there. Then we're going to shift over to defense. It's always a pleasure talking to Ralph, especially about Arizona State football, and we're going to keep it going right after our second break. Listen, if you're remodeling your home or you want to spruce up your home, you got to look down. Not on other people, but at your flooring. But make sure after you look down, you look up and you call Empire Today, because Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. You've all been to those big box stores, you wander the aisles endlessly, and somehow you're hauling all the materials home, looking for an installer and coordinating everything yourself or doing everything yourself. And guess what? You don't even really save any money doing that. Not with Empire Today. Not only will they have a free in-home estimate to match up the flooring with your home, your furniture, your colors, your desires, but also all-inclusive, clear, upfront pricing, and you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule Schedule that free in-home estimate today because some things are just better off at home. PHNX listeners can receive a $350 off discount when using promo code PHNX. $350 off when using promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/PHNX for full details. Also, it's hot, and I am lazy. And luckily, APS has me covered on all of those fronts because I have a smart thermostat. And not only can I set my smart thermostat to the right temperature at the right time to save me the most money, since over half of my energy costs come from cooling and heating my home, it also helps me be lazy when I don't want to get up out of bed, but I want to turn the AC down a little bit because I'm too warm. That's right. APS has me covered on all fronts. And if you are an APS customer, you can find instant rebates, discounts, and special offers on smart thermostats, energy efficient appliances, and more at marketplace.aps.com. And right now, APS customers may be eligible for smart thermostats for as low as $0 when you enroll in the APS Cool Rewards program. And if you already have a smart thermostat at home, see if you're eligible to enroll in Cool Rewards. Plus, free install also available at marketplace.aps.com. Reminder, you must be an APS customer, pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions apply, and go to marketplace.aps.com for more information. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Not for me, not for Shane behind the Mac, but for the man, the myth, the legend. It's Ralph Amsden, who I'm going to say this, Ralph, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. Probably the smartest college football person I've ever talked to. Like the fact that I can talk to you about, yeah, I'm saying it, Ralph, about all these deep cuts on ASU, and you can probably do the same about a bunch of other rosters, man. It's just always a pleasure talking ball with you.
That's so nice of you. Get more friends.
You're not the first person to say that, Ralph. But the Arizona State Sun Devils, they don't need any more running backs. They're quite covered. Obviously, you have Kanye Udo and you have Kyson Brown. They're vying for running back 1, running back 2. But it's a deep room, so we're not going to talk about those two. I want to start with Raleek Brown. We'll move to Jason Brown here in a second. When Raleek transferred in from USC last season, it was all excitement, but obviously, it didn't turn out the best. He was injured. He didn't get to play a ton. But when he did play for USC, 42 carries, 227 yards, 16 receptions, 6 touchdowns. But what you don't see on the stats, obviously, is the speed. How much of the share of being in that backfield do you think he's going to be able to get with a Kyson and with a Kanye, feeling like they slot into that 1-2 role?
He's the of your wild cards, he's the biggest wild card to me because a couple of reasons. Lincoln Riley, his offense is not. I mean, if he gives a running back 200 carries this year, and I think he'll have Eli Sanders, former Sean Aguano pupil from Chandler High School, it'll be the first time he does not. It's an offense where the pass sets up the run, and so getting Raleek Brown, knowing that he was highly touted out of high school, we've sort of been just coasting on hype this whole time, and we were never going to see he was truly capable of at USC, and I think that's ultimately what led to his transfer and what the Branch brothers and pretty much everybody else who's ever, gone to USC and realized I'm not going to develop here. If he's going to get a running back, it's going to be a senior from somebody else, going to give him 150 carries. It's going to be 10 carries a game, and they're never going to be a priority in the offense. At Arizona State, it's really up to him if he becomes the guy. Can somebody with his skill set and his body be that, especially with an injury history? So I think that he's probably got the biggest uphill battle to shake, not only his past, but the narrative surrounding players like him, because there have been so many highly touted speed backs that have come out of California specifically that have not necessarily panned out. And we're talking about 4- and 5-star guys, right? And so, Jalen Redd was one of them. Paul Lucas was one of them at a Mountain Point High School in Ahwatukee, trying to figure out, well, can we use the guy on a jet sweep because he's got 10-1 100-meter speed? You're not running 100 meters. And so speed matters sort of, but in some ways it's just you ran into the guy that was going to tackle you quicker. Like sometimes patience a lot more important than speed at the running back position. So are we putting him in a position to succeed? Can he be an every down back? Can he be somebody who can run between guard and tackle? I think Arizona State should give him the opportunity.
Yeah,
I
I think
think
he'll definitely get one.
you think he'll get one to run some of the same plays that Cam Scatterbu, like to try to shake. We're going to let a free guy come because we know it's not about outrunning him. It's about, can you be more physical? I just want to know, do you think Arizona State's going to give him the opportunity to go out there and go between guard and tackle? Or do you think that it's going to be a little bubble screen here, a little toss play there?
I think it's most likely the latter, right? Especially because when you have a Kanye and a Kyson who are a little bit more built to take on head-on defenses, I think there is going to be a need to fill the receiving hole that Cam Scatterbu had. And I think Raleek is actually the most fit, when healthy, of the three running backs to do that. And with that speed, a little bubble on the side, keep them true. I'm not sure exactly how much straight up, hey, here's the ball, go make something happen, like we're just going to hand it to you, he's going to get. But I do think that putting him on some pre-snap movement, giving him a little bubble screen or something is more likely where he's going to fall into place. I think he's going to be used. Now, can he stay healthy? How often is he going to be used? I'm not sure. I agree with you. On offense, him and I think AJ Ia are the two biggest wild cards for me, but for a couple of different reasons, obviously. I think that if you can get a Raleek Brown, who is clearly your third running back and your top backfield receiving weapon, I think that takes this offense to the next level. I'm just not comfortable betting on that happening as of now, but I think it's an intriguing prospect, and he certainly has all the talent in the world and the physical abilities to do it.
When it comes to Raleek Brown, I just have two questions. Who is the last great college running back who the first adjective you would use to describe them is speed? Tough, like Steve Slayton or something. It's tough.
Yeah.
And then when's the last time you saw a Lamborghini on Alma School? Like, some things are not used for your everyday commute. I think he should be given the opportunity to show, oh, I can do this. And so I would love to see that. A few runs between the tackle against an SEC team in Mississippi State, see what he can do. And if he's the guy, then maybe you roll with him.
I agree. Another name in the running back room, rounding out our offense, Jason Brown Jr. What do you think about him? Can he earn any spot? Obviously, he's a 4-star recruit coming in for the Sun Devils after a redshirt year. I'm interested to see if they even have him on the field a lot, considering how much talent, but kind of like Fortier, man, it's like you got to find a role for some of these guys before you lose them.
Yeah, I have. First of all, I think Jason Brown is going to be good. There's been a lot of running backs who have come through Arizona State who have maybe gotten a little bit of hype based on how they've looked physically or what they did at the high school level. I think a lot about Brock Sturgis. I ended up at Texas State, never really heard from him again. I think about the physical Goliath that was Jason Lewis. Was he 6'3", 230, but not a killer? And so, we went and played, I think, FCS football out toward Tennessee or Virginia somewhere. I think Jason Brown, it has the right build. I just don't want to see him end up like a Daniel Ngata or something like that, where he transfers to go back, be closer to home, and just ends getting 2 or 3 carries in his college career. Mm-hmm. I do think Jason Brown is a very good running back. I think that if ASU felt like they were good to rock with the 3 that they had in-house, they probably wouldn't have gone out and gotten Kanye Udo. However, there have been seasons in ASU history where they've been on their 5th guy or had to convert a wide receiver to play running back, because they went, Hakeem Hill broke his arm or, whatever else happened. I think that he has an opportunity to really be a contributor this year when you consider that ASU has Kanye Udo, but at the level that he played at, we're not 100% sure it's going to transfer. We don't know if Raleek Brown is an every down back, nor has the durability. And we also aren't sure that Kyson Brown is somebody that can get 200 carries because he's never had to be guy number 1. So I think he will actually play an important role this year. If he does not end up being necessary, I expect him to be on another college football roster in 2026.
By the way, you can get your PHNX officially licensed Daniel Ngata t-shirt for just $8.75 right now. Sizes small, large, extra large, double XL, and triple XL still available at allcitynetwork.com/collections. Yeah, no mediums.
Oh my God.
Mediums and quadruple XLs are sold out of
There goes my birthday gift.
Officially licensed Daniel Ngata t-shirt. Enough about the offense, Ralph. Oh, the offense always gets all the love. Let's talk about some defensive wild cards, but let's do it right after our final break. Whether you want to bet somebody on how many officially licensed Daniel Ngata t-shirts you can buy, or whether you're playing pickup, it's a push-up contest, maybe you're betting on video games, maybe somebody doesn't believe in Arizona State and you want to bet with them as well. Vime is the first of its kind person-to-person betting app, and there's finally an app where you can bet with anyone on anything at any time. And we are proud to partner with Vime to launch a brand new way to bet. Now, wagers can be free or they could be for money. If you saw, Totri and I competed in a free throw competition. I had an embarrassing performance, still pulled out the win, but still an embarrassing performance. And I didn't have to worry about cheap Totri backing out of our deal because all the money is collected up front. It's not just, hey, we are going to have to rely on the Venmo guy who always tells you that he's going to pay, but he never does. No more chasing cash with Vime. Listen, download the Vime app, and it's very important you do this when you download that app. Use code PHNX. It's available on the App Store and on Google Play. Vime, anyone, anything, at any time. Also, big shout out to Shady Rays. I wear them literally every single day. That is correct because I'm driving around and I got sensitive little eyes. Yes, I do. I need my Shady Rays. And guess what? I've been very good with my Shady Rays. Not only have I not broken them, I haven't lost them either. And that's very rare for me with a pair of sunglasses. But the best part was if I lost them or I did break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. And not only are they doing that, but of course, a bunch of people love them as well. Over 300,000 5-star reviews. Shady Rays, to put it in layman's terms, is a game changer for the sunglasses game, and we've teamed up with them to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code PHNX for 35% off your polarized sunglasses. 35%! Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Use code PHNX for 35% off. We're winding down here on PHNX Sun Devils here on a hump day. Ralph will be back with us tomorrow, but we will have no show on July 4th, or at least no full show. Totri and I have a little something recorded for y'all that will be coming out on Friday. But before we get to all of that, let's get through today and let's get to the defense. I think let's start with who I believe to be the biggest wild card on this team because they are put in the biggest position to either succeed or fail. You saw it in the college football playoffs when Shamari was out. It's Montana Warren, 6 foot, 205 pound, obviously a 3-star coming into college, but now has been in Arizona State system for a while. How much faith do you have in Montana Warren to step in as who is going to be the presumed starter at nickel?
Well, he when he switched his number to 7, I got some Ricardo Stewart vibes. Now, Ricardo, who is probably not going to watch this, but maybe I'll clip it and send it to him. Ricardo's like 5'2", so like Montana Warren's like a legit 6 feet. I think if he can prove that he's a hitter, I think he has everything else. And one of the things that encourages me the most about him is I think he got in like every single game last year. He wasn't a starter and he wasn't necessarily a regular contributor, someone you had to depend on. But when the coaches come to you after the season and they let you know, as with these exit meetings, what their plan is for you, for Arizona State to prioritize bringing him back, they know what they have. And in high school, he's playing on both sides of the ball. He was running track. He has every single athletic gift that you could ask for. And now he's been at Arizona State for like 30 months, 30 months plus. He is, it's very much kind of like a Caleb McCullough situation where we actually had somebody come in, do the work, lift the weights, get the body right. I don't know if you saw on Instagram today, he's got all those acupuncture needles in his thigh. It's disgusting. He's doing everything that is necessary to make sure that he can get on the field. if he can deliver a blow, if he can do that number 7 justice, then I think that you have every reason to at the end of this season spike the football on the prediction that he's going to be like make the biggest jump on this defense.
Yeah, I'm super high on what he can do. I think he was put in a pretty tough position in that Peach Bowl, and I think some people might have been a little down on him for that. And then Shamari comes in, and obviously that game changes. But I'm very, very high on what he can do with an offseason full of work. I know this coaching staff trusts him greatly as well. And we'll get to a couple more returning players and players that have been at ASU for a little bit, but I want to talk some transfers here. Let's start with Nyland Green, because Nyland Green is definitely an interesting name here, transferring in from Purdue. I am intrigued to hear what you think about him. Obviously not like the craziest stats, but still good ones. 13 solo tackles, 23 total tackles, 5 passes defended, 2 sacks in 2024-2025 for Nyland Green out of Purdue. How do you think he translates in his first season in the Big 12?
So this is the, depending on what recruiting service you follow. Shout out to On3. I'm part of On3 now. They bought
there
Rivals. So I guess I would probably have to quote one of their recruiting services. But we'll keep it impartial. We'll go with the one that I don't work for. 24/7 had Nyland Green as the 19th best player in the entire country coming out of high school. Georgia wanted him for a reason. They believed that they could follow up their championships and that secondary with Keely Ringo and everybody they had back there. They believed that they were going to be able to depend on Nyland Green. He, like 21 other players, had some issues out there. He went to Purdue, and unfortunately, Purdue might have been the worst constructed roster in the history of college football last year, and it did not make him look very good. But when you're playing for somebody like Brian Ward, it's all situational football and keeping things incredibly simple. Not that he didn't have good defensive coaches at Purdue. That's the DC at Washington now, and I think they're going to be stellar. But I think that when you look at guys who had that level of hype coming out of high school, which is going to be both Arizona State defensive ends, I think Prince Dorba was like a number 130 recruit, and who's his bookend?
Clayton.
He was Clayton was a 5-star. Clayton Smith was a 5-star. So was Nyland Green, and so that the potential and athleticism is in there. It really just comes down to what is Brian Ward going to do to put him in a situation to succeed, and how much is Nyland Green trusting how skilled he is over what the scheme is demanding from him. Because the best thing about Arizona State's defense, and all of these defenses that originate from what was happening at North Dakota State when they were rattling off title after title after title, is it's all just an answer to whatever the offense is showing you. You don't have a ton of what Antonio Pierce used to call business decisions, right? Like if you can go make a play. If you can go off script, go off script. I think the expectations for what you're able to do within each set are all kind of built in. And a lot of players find a ton of comfort in that. Is Nyland Green going to be one of them? It'll be interesting because, you have somebody who was at Georgia and who was very, very highly touted coming out of high school. In order to build back up, sometimes you got to humble down. It'll be interesting to see if he's done that work.
Let's talk about his teammate also out of Purdue. Kyndrich Breedlove is definitely somebody that I think Arizona State fans were intrigued by when they heard that he was also transferring in here. Obviously, 3 interceptions, 4 passes defended, 28 solo tackles, 40 total tackles. Definitely on paper and on the field, the better of the two when it comes to production at Purdue. Doesn't have the same type of pedigree, though. Do you feel like he steps in seamlessly to this defense?
Yeah, I think it's very, very important to nickel depth and the plays that you expect your nickel to be able to come up and make. You're going to have more than one because they're going to take a beating. And so, I do expect, some of the receivers that Arizona State's going to see in the Big 12 this year came from some of these tiny schools, and they're just absolute dynamite in a box speedsters that are like 5'10", 178. Some of these teams that they're going to play are going to put a ton of receivers on the field at the same time. Texas Tech will have a tendency to do that. Texas State will do a little bit of it. And so he's going to play. I 100% believe that that he's going to play, and I think that his agility and his athleticism is really going to come in handy having to chase around some of these Derek Eusebios of other parts of the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for him. Let's knock out a couple more transfers here before we get back to players that have been at Arizona State. Adrian Wilson, the most common name in all of college football, or just football in general, it feels like, transferring in from Washington State. 1 forced fumble, 3 passes defend, 37 solo tackles, 47 total tackles here, jumping over, much like Javen Robinson from Washington State to Arizona State. Same question for him that I asked with Breedlove. Do you see him fitting in seamlessly?
Yeah, because I think the thing about coming from Washington State is you're coming from the exact same defense. That's where Brian Ward was. That's where Jake Dickert was. They're both out of that North Dakota State school of thought. Jake Dickert used to be the defensive coordinator at my Wyoming Cowboys. You see the little sticker up there. So, I'm surprised that he didn't end up at Wake Forest with Jake Dickert in the Exodus, but I've said this and I'll say it a million times. And if someone wants to put it on a t-shirt and give me a penny every time they sell one, Arizona State is the best second decision that you could ever make. So for somebody who has the ability to come up and make a play in the running game, as well as be adept in coverage, to choose ASU, even though it's a pretty full secondary with a ton of returners, I think that a role was outlined for him, and I think that he's going to come in understanding this defense even more than Breedlove or Green.
Yeah, I think it's going to be extremely exciting to see if he can have that same sort of seamless transition as Javen Robinson. Let's change positions. Let's go with our last transfer here. Mykeil Gardner out of Oregon. I think this is also a very big wild card when it comes to this defense. Obviously, the pedigree there, 6'2", 305, 3-star. He's a local guy coming back home after heading up to the Pacific Northwest. How do you feel about this local guy? Do you remember him when he was in high school here playing in Peoria?
Yes. Yeah. He was one of the bigger threats to the East Valley dynasty. And really helped kind of put Liberty over the top. He was he was a bully, really, on the inside at the high school level. And one of the things you run into, because he's not the only defensive tackle that Oregon has come and gotten out of Arizona and then decided that, like, oh, we went after somebody who might have been undersized for what we were trying to do, to see if they could play up to, a different potential. Buckner was one of them. Mykeil Gardner is another. When he was, a shade under 6'3", 300 in high school, he was not lying about that. And high school centers having to go out and try to block him coming up the middle to this day might be one of the worst things they've ever had to experience. He did not have, in my opinion, a peer in Arizona as an inside pass rusher. And by peer, I mean somebody who could really stop him up front. And sometimes when you're in that situation, you get to the collegiate level and it can be a little bit of a grind, because it's not, can you overpower somebody? It's, can you do all of the little things a little bit better, a little bit different? But I'll tell you this. One of the people I trust with evaluations more than anyone on this planet is Cody Keenan. He does stuff for Sports 360 AZ, used to work for me. The guy knows more football than, by age 30 than I'll learn my entire life. He absolutely loves Mykeil Gardner. I trust his evaluation on him. And I look at who Arizona State, there's no reason that he can't come in and do some of the stuff that Jacob Kongaika has done in this defense. And so I see a path to success for him. But what I remember him as was just this brutal bully. And I don't think you're going to be able to do that at this level.
No, I don't think he'll be able to do that at this level either. But if he's got that mentality, then that's great. We got a couple more names we'll roll through here. Plus, we have one question from Glenn earlier, but we're going to hit all of that in overtime. If you're watching on TV, the party always continues over at gophnx.com. That's right, baby. It is time for overtime. Let's get back to our friend Ralph Amsden. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow Ralph at Ralph Amsden, of course, on socials as well. I'm going to throw two returning players that I feel like might be names that at the end of the season we're talking about a lot more than they're talking about right now. Rodney Bimage and Tony Luis-Nkuba. Out of those two names, who stands out to you as somebody that you feel like is going to be the one that makes a name for themselves going forward?
Well, this is tough because both of them had great high school film. Both of them are very similar players. They've kind of got like a Chase Lucas build. And I believe they're both safeties, right? Like that. These aren't are these guys that would have an opportunity to play behind a guy like Javon Robinson. I think these are guys with huge potential, and Arizona State's got some players that after this year are going to be on the out. But again, if Arizona State is progressing, then they're going to have players that want to come play here, and so you're going to run into competition no matter what. But they're very similar to me in their pedigree, in where they come from, in their body shape. I've seen a little bit more of Bimage because there have been people that are active on his behalf on social media that have posted his highlights and things like that. And so I would be lying if I was able to, and I'd have to flip a coin to tell you, who I believed would have the better shot out of either one of them. But physically, they are both extremely capable. It's just it comes down to execution and physicality. I really think in this defense, it's so weird. I was thinking about it the other day. I just daydreaming about what it would have been like to have Kobe out from Long Beach Poly, started 3 years at corner for Arizona State and has played in the CFL. Can't even remember his last name, but under 5'8", Kobe Williams.
Kobe Williams.
Like Kobe Williams to me is the perfect player for this defense because his technique is sound. He's intelligent. It's not necessarily all about speed or your physical gifts. It's about, like, do you know your job? And nobody to me, in the last 20 years of playing defense at Arizona State has known their job more than Kobe Williams. So, who has that student of the game mentality? That's going to be who's, I think, able to step in and make an impact on this defense.
Man, we've gone through so many names here. Let us know down in the comments below who you think is the biggest wild card. Is it Raleek? Is it Malik? Is it Breedlove? Is it Nyland? Whoever you think it is, drop a comment, leave a like. We do have a question from Glenn before we get out of here. It says, question for Ralph since he's in the high school scene. Out of all of the golden tickets given out, who do you think is most likely to go to ASU and who is most likely not?
Well, okay, so I can answer most likely not. And this has nothing to do with this player attitude toward Arizona State. It actually got nothing to do with the player at all. It has everything to do with where I see Arizona State headed as a program, and Kenny Dillingham becoming one of the inner circle of guys who are able to pick who they want at quarterback. Steve Spurrier is one of them. Lane Kiffin is another. Obviously, the one who has had multiple players picked first overall, Lincoln Riley, is another. I think Kenny Dillingham, if it can get Sam Leavitt where they want to go, and in a continuation of how he looked in the second half of last season, you're going to be able to point to Kenny Dillingham's body of work, and you're going to say, Bo Nix, look at him at Auburn versus look at him at Oregon. And then you're going to say, look at how Florida State hasn't won with any quarterback except for Jordan Travis, and that was Kenny Dillingham's guy. Now, the irony being both guys peaked after Kenny Dillingham left, but that's not how people think. They will think Bo Nix, Kenny Dillingham guy. They will think Sam Leavitt, Kenny Dillingham guy, and they're going to think about Jordan Travis, and you're going to talk about three different players who were on a Heisman stage, I believe. And so, or could be on a Heisman. Why not? Sam Leavitt's winning the Heisman. Whatever.
Yeah.
But so I say all that to say this. Don't think Cale Snyder, the quarterback from Perry, is going to be an Arizona State Sun Devil. I would love to see him be an Arizona State Sun Devil. I just don't think it's going to happen. because I think Arizona State doesn't have their eye on him as in the upcoming classes as a 2027. I think they've got a few others on their list as well, and they're going to be able to hopefully take their pick. That's just my opinion on that. Has nothing to do with the player or their attitude. His dad was a longtime NFL player. It'd be awesome to see, that continue, and have a Perry quarterback when we missed out on Brock Purdy. That would be fantastic. As far as the rest of them, there's a lot of hype behind this kid out of Desert Edge. And I think that that's probably going to be ASU's biggest priority. I love what they did with the golden tickets, because this is Arizona State saying, hold us accountable on these 6 guys. And I think that you should. And I think that it's important, and not just for the health of my business, to pay attention to what's going on at the level below. It says Arizona State right across the chest of a lot of these jerseys. And it is important to have that representation. And right now, Arizona State just really doesn't have it in the meaningful way that they want to, not even in places where they usually do on special teams in the offensive line. And so, unless Zach Swanson goes out and has 12 sacks and 20 tackles for a loss, this is probably going to be the least local Arizona State team in a while. And that includes coaching staffs that didn't prioritize the local. So I think it's important to pay attention. I couldn't give you odds on anything, because I think if Arizona State has the strategy of saying, if you want to get a bag somewhere else and they develop you and you come back home later, I also think that's a great strategy. So it's 2-tiered now. Do I think that Arizona State's going to get all 6 of those guys? No. It'd be good at this point. It'd be positive progress to get half. I think, was it Jamal Beal-Goins or something like that? Out of Desert Edge is the one that a lot of the hype's on, or it could be another one. But I'll just say right now, I'm not looking at Arizona State as being a front runner with anybody that they're recruiting. Though I do think the offensive lineman at Centennial is one that you do want to build around. The boring guys, are important too. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cool gimmick, and I think it's a great way to gamify it and introduce accountability. I'm just at the point where the portal is such an important part of college football that high school recruiting, even though it's a big part of what I do as a job, it's just not that important unless it's somebody who you plan on getting on the field immediately. And there have been guys that Arizona State missed on that they would have: a Jacoby Lane, a Deuce Robinson. They missed on Deuce Robinson twice now. Those type of guys are going to be the really important ones. I don't personally see any of the 6 golden ticket guys as play as a freshman guys, but that's my opinion right now. It could change as the year goes on, but I do love the accountability that is introduced. I do love the gamification, and I think that an informed community is a better community. And if you know who the good high schoolers are, you can do what fans should have done back when Christian Kirk was deciding between UCLA, ASU, and Texas A&M. Show up at his games and cheer his name.
Yeah.
It's something that Kenny Dillingham has asked you to do.
It's something Kenny Dillingham does as well. Like he literally goes out there and does that.
There's nothing better than Friday Night Lights. It is, and someday you're going to have a bunch of little Erics running around, and you're going to find out that a Friday night out costs $10 billion. And the only way for it to not cost $10 billion is to go to a high school football game, get your kids some peanut M&Ms and let them run around the sideline while you watch some football, the best thing in the entire world. So I think more people should be out at these games. And if it's a golden ticket player or it's somebody you think is good, get involved, get active, and spread the Sun Devil gospel to these high school seniors and juniors, because they need to hear it.
No better way to end our show today, Ralph. Excited to chat with you tomorrow as well. Is there spaces tonight?
There's no spaces tonight. I reserved all of my energy for you, my friend. I think we're going to take a couple of weeks in July off, but spaces have been so much fun. It's always really cool to have you in there. There's some crossover audience, and it's just a great place for you to get in, and you get to be the one to talk. And I get to shut up after about the first 20 minutes. I try to shut up. But it's just an awesome place to talk with your fellow Sun Devils. And, we've been talking a lot about the fact that the Arizona State hype isn't coming from in the house. And it feels very strange because it doesn't really feel like the energy of the fan base is matching what just happened and what is possible. But you're getting Bruce Feldman articles completely mythologizing the quarterback, and maybe fuzzy in a couple of details in order to prep the way for a potential Heisman run in a really special season. And I think that ASU fans should get in on the mix, because it's not often that you get to go into a season with just outlandish expectations. And what if you're right?
Yeah.
What if you're right? How good would it feel to be an absolute psycho, to be a PHNX diehard, to be on these YouTubes every single day and have ASU go on a back-to-back run in the Big 12?
Man, I can't think of anything better except for back-to-back days with Ralph Amsden. He'll be back tomorrow. We'll be talking ASU. Maybe the Big 12 will release their preseason teams. Maybe not. We always know that we can talk ball with Ralph. Follow him at Ralph Amsden for all the amazing work that he does for the high school football scene, for the college football scene, everything in between. Make sure you're following him. And, of course, you can follow the show at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow the Deli Man behind the Mac, making all the magic happen, at Shane Dief.
Sneezing as always.
Sneezing as always. You can follow me at ERIK. RUBY. We'll be back with another banger of an episode tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.